Cryptocurrency is still very much a thing, and people's lives are getting ruined because of it. Here's how. Someone shared their experience at Crypto Rehab. Yes, you heard that right. Centers are present in many European cities, including London. They also provide facilities to treat those with drug and alcohol addictions. Think of cryptocurrency like gambling. You're spending thousands, sometimes millions, on assets unsure of whether the rate will go higher or lower the next day. Sounds an awful lot like gambling, right? Well, this is unhealthy on so many levels.
I have to admit that cryptocurrency has become a fact of our economy. Even after its crash last year, its total market...
Because of one of the experiences shared by a John Doe, or in this case, by a Don, as I'll call him from now on, who wishes to remain anonymous to avoid trouble with investors. He works in a company that processes central bank digital currency transactions. In other words, he was one of the very few people who understood crypto. He described his downward spiral taking place in 2022, where he spent over $200,000 every week on trades. Monitoring the stats, checking infographics, and wasting money on transactions got a little too much for Don. He admitted himself to The Balance, a rehab center on the Spanish island of Mallorca. When he described his stay there, you wouldn't believe the stuff they provided. Don lived in a private villa with a personal butler and chef. With therapy, he received massages, yoga, and bike rides. The total bill for his 4-week retreat was a whopping $75,000. This particular rehab center has programs to treat anxiety, burnout, depression, PTSD, and eating disorders.
When they were younger, or that I was so lucky, or that they spilled more.
Don said that his time there helped him wean off crypto. As far as the price is concerned, a Stanford University psychiatry professor said that it's not really justified. She said that since it's a gambling issue, you should treat it as such. Unfortunately, these centers are making money out of desperate people wanting to get better.
You know, it doesn't matter if they were rich or poor or come from completely different lifestyles.
Don't you think that's a little ethically wrong? But when has society ever been kind to addicts? You're probably familiar with how rehab works for when it comes to drugs and alcohol, right? Let me tell you how it works to treat an obsession with crypto. In a nutshell, it's kinda similar. Treatment begins with abstinence. Like always, if you're addicted to something, it's time to go cold turkey. Professor Anna Lamke talked about how withdrawal symptoms like anxiety, irritability, and insomnia are managed.
Of, their traumatic experience, I feel like saying, that's not...
Pretty standard stuff. It takes around 4 weeks for the brain to sort of reset its reward pathways, meaning patients aren't allowed to view any trades or stocks for that time. This can be considered to be cognitive behavioral therapy. The center is trying to change thinking patterns, sort of like rewiring the brain. This is done along with other services of the rehab center. It's surprising to see that cryptotherapy is treated with more grandeur than other addictions.
We live in a world in which we are saturated with dopamine, and we live in a culture which...
people with mental illnesses like anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts are put in a psych ward, right? I don't want to get into details of the stories I've heard from places like that because it's just too depressing. Now, if you work in CBDCT like our Don here, you can afford something that could be mistaken for a summer vacation.
Addiction is the continued compulsive use of a substance or behavior despite harm to self and or others.
No, I'm not demeaning the threat that is crypto addiction, but services at The Balance include psychoeducation, support groups, proper nutrition, holistic therapies, and much, much more. They're all related to each other, meaning this is a huge multi-step process. Believe it or not, crypto addicts need this a lot so they don't relapse. What's more shocking is that the symptoms aren't easy to identify. Professionals say that this addiction is worse than gambling. Some say dealing with crypto and making trades is more exciting than usual gambling. The market is spontaneous, unpredictable, and more rewarding. We're talking about hundreds and thousands of dollars both being spent and lost, which brings me to the financial risk this has. Ever since some of the currencies took a fall, many investors lost money, a lot of money. And look at the current recession the world is going through. Inflation is at an all-time high. I'm pretty sure some investors regret putting their money on cryptocurrency.
Kind of mentioned that I had bought what I could afford to lose and that it wasn't a big deal.
Sure, one Bitcoin is currently worth around $20,000, but it used to be way higher. I'm not going to list down the rates of all these currencies, but I will discuss how dangerous an addiction to it can be. People start trading impulsively and turn to it as a source of excitement and pleasure in their lives. After all these years online, you must have thought crypto and NFTs are all a rich man's game, right? Wrong, because guess what? Financially unstable people deal too. This leads to stealing and lots of debt. Trust me, you do not want to be under such situations in this economy. economy. In case you're worried about your fellow crypto bro, signs of addiction include lying and stealing.
It can trade at $100,000 before it trades to zero. So tulip bulbs traded for $75,000.
But that's not all. These people also face difficulties in relaxing and sleeping because they need to monitor prices at all times. Trading is more of a priority than relationships, careers, education. To think of it on a larger scale, people are starting to rely on this more than a legitimate career. Now Don realized that he went too far after his girlfriend broke up with him. She realized how much money he lost during the crypto downturn in 2022, which led him to seeking professional treatment at a small price of 75 grand. Similarly, another patient who also wishes to remain anonymous was dumped by her partner because of the long trading benders that she'd go on. This made it look like she was having an affair. Jane lacked self-awareness because she didn't know what she was doing that was wrong. She started off investing thousands, but ended up putting in 10 times more than that. She admitted herself to Paracelsus Recovery, and you'll be amazed to find out how much this cost. A weekly session is up to $104,000. Online therapy costs $650 an hour. This 360-degree approach to mental health has more of a medical take in it, with treatment like blood tests, acupuncture, and medication. Basically, if you're a recovering trader, you tend to spend more money than you lost. The scary part is, not everyone can afford luxurious rehab centers like Don and Jane. Another patient never revealed his treatment. One can only assume that he never sought help.
Had been in such a dark place for so long, and
The 51-year-old father got hooked on trading during the pandemic, when everyone followed SOPs and isolation. He thought that since no one was in contact, it wouldn't be much of an issue. Plus, the fact that 95% of the world stayed home, getting involved with the market was easier. But when his children visited for Christmas, he became hostile towards them. The anonymous addict was also losing a lot of sleep and would end up spending days making up for it.
2 months. And, I started when I was 23 years old, and I think I was...
The worst part is, no one would have guessed that crypto was the problem. I know how the internet feels about these people. They resort to bullying them rather than being concerned, especially when their friends are involved in crypto. In the end, this is a very serious problem. Like all addictions, it messes with you mentally. Your relationships are on the line, and so is your financial status. There are stories of millionaires going broke because of the downfall in 2022. And don't get me started with the suicide rates. Think of it as a business. If someone loses their job, you know what stress can do to you.
So having someone to, one, keep me safe, two, make sure
to kind of have the realization that like my time is pretty much up if I don't.
It's been a little over 6 months, so 6 months and a week.
But going cold turkey isn't always the best option, since that's what one of the professionals said. It's always about proper management. This video served as both a PSA, a warning, and a surprise account on how rich the rehab facilities can be. See you in the next video.